Simonsen. I am the author of Aging Powerfully. My book is about aging with power. I wrote it 6 months before I turned 70, and that was more than 3 years ago. The point being, as a health and wellness coach with a lifestyle medical practice, I watch people not only overcome chronic diseases, but prevent them as well as treat them, and then overcome those that maybe they came to us with that they were given dire predictions about. And that's what lifestyle as medicine can do. So the word powerfully is an acronym for 10 lifestyle modalities that make a difference in terms of our ability to age beautifully with vibrant health and with power. So I am going to introduce you today to one of my heroes. He's a chef. He's been around for decades. He'll tell you more about his story, but he has books as well. As a matter of fact, one of the precepts of the College of Lifestyle Medicine, and therefore the physicians who are certified to practice lifestyle medicine, is nutrition based on a whole food plant-based diet. That's even recommended by the certifying body. And our chef guest promotes and offers recipes for exactly that. So one of his first recipe written back, or excuse me, first cookbook written back in 2012 is this one, Forks Over Knives. Everybody knows Forks Over Knives, and he is the cookbook author for them. He followed that, and wait a minute, back up, Nan. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Chef Del Sroufe. Ta-da! Is right on the camera. Then he produced this one, Better Than Vegan. What does that mean? I'm going to let him tell you what he means by better than vegan. I've got the feeling it means that he took his expertise and put it behind that, and that we're talking whole food, plant-based vegan. But maybe I spilled the beans. We'll let him explain that. And then the China study, quick and easy. Are you getting a pattern here? The best in the business are asking this chef to produce their recipes. That says a lot. And then the China Study Family Cookbook. He also created the recipes for that. So I'm very happy to introduce you to someone who is not only going to share some recipes with you today, but also has something in that bundle you've been hearing so much about. What am I talking about? The 2024 Vegan Health Bundle. We only have a few days left. Today is Friday. On Sunday at 11:59 Eastern time, the bundle is no more. And what they mean by bundle is 151 contributors produced bodies of work that they could put into a bundle online. And these bundles are as disseparate as individual as not just recipe ebooks, but also things like fascia release training from Drina Burton, things like meditation, exercise, yoga. So there is so much in the bundle that's beyond cooking. And yet, as it relates to cooking, there are over 2,000 recipes in the bundle. So 151 contributors, the total value over $8,000. And what is the cost for the bundle? $49, the price of a meal out with a friend, a rather inexpensive meal out with a friend. And that's a one and done. Your money is gone. You're left with, well, whatever that meal did to you, because most meals out are so loaded with things like salt, oil, sugar, we're not going out of our way for. And instead, this can give you a lifetime of information that you can pick apart, download it, put it on a little zip drive, and pick it apart for the next year or two or three. It's yours to have. So Chef Dell produced a oil-free salad dressing ebook. And I'm going to give you some examples of what's in it. For example, mayonnaise. A lot of people think they can't go plant-based because mayonnaise is clearly not a plant-based, not a strictly plant-based food, and yet that's not true at all. he'll show you how, and his is delicious. Tartar sauce, fresh herb dressing, horseradish dressing, sour cream. I have a plant-based sour cream I put on everything. And oh, yes, his is like mine in that it's also a protein source. So my husband, who's assiduous about the way he eats, wants to stay away from a lot of fat. And the two of us have been whole food plant-based going on 6 years now. I have to change the word from sour cream. He says, I don't put sour cream on my food. I know, Tim, I've got some extra protein for you, and it makes him happy. Creamy poppy seed dressing, orange dressing, strawberry tarragon salad dressing, sweet and spicy mustard dressing, raspberry vinaigrette, balsamic vinaigrette, Italian dressing, fresh tomato dressing. I think I'm going to stop because I could go on and on, but he's going to, ginger miso. See, I'm not stopping. Avocado salad dressing, mango salad dressing, Thousand Island, creamy olive and dill dressings. Just getting these dressings can make whole food plant-based fare so much more enjoyable, because we can eat anything that's whole food plant-based as long as it has all the flavor that we've come to know in conventional food, the sad American diet. Well, that's the whole point of this. Get your sauces right, get your dressings right, and you can eat just about anything and enjoy it just as much. So I'm going to ask Chef Del to tell you about himself, that history that has given him so much attention. And then he's going to tell us which dressings he's going to put together. I'm going to open up the chat. And I'll address what the questions are. I'm not responding on the chat. I'll only do it verbally. And I'm going to get out of the picture and let him play. Are you ready, Chef Del?
I'm ready. You're welcome, everyone, and thank you, Nan, for having me here. What a nice introduction. I'd like you to come and do all of my introductions when I go publicly, because you did a beautiful job at it. Let me tell you, for those of you I've not met, a little bit about myself. I've been cooking in vegan, vegetarian, and whole food plant-based kitchens for 35 years now. I'm coming up on 35 years this May. And it's been quite a sight to watch how the landscape has changed for vegetarian and vegan foods, and how now we talk about those as healthy. I thought that when I went to work for my first restaurant job, that I was working in a health food restaurant. But if you looked at the menu then, you might know differently. We had quiche that had eggs and cheese and cream. We had these sandwiches called cheese mouths. We had nachos, lots and lots of cheese and oil and the like. And all of those foods were thought to be healthy because they were vegetarian back in the day. And it was in 1997 when I left King Avenue that I went from being vegetarian to being vegan. And I opened up my own vegan bakery again, with the thought that a vegan bakery is going to be food. I gained, when I first went vegan, over 200 pounds on that vegan diet. And I've always been a big guy. I've been on diet since I was 8 years old, but I had never reached the height of the weight that I did once I went vegan. I was at over 500 pounds, which is 100 and some pounds more than I weigh now. So it was the vegan diet, and it was the oil, and it was the white flour and sugar in abundance that helped me get there. And Nan mentioned the better than vegan, and what does that mean? Well, I adopted a vegan diet and proceeded to gain weight. And in 1999, I met what became my business partner, who worked in the whole food plant-based realm, with Whole Foods as part of her package for health and recovery. And I started creating product for her, and then eventually closed my bakery, opened up a meal delivery service, and went to work at Wellness Form Health, Wellness Form Foods as the executive chef, and adopted a different way of cooking. And the big thing that she had me change in my cooking when I went there was to take the oil out of my foods, which I did without telling any of my clients, and none of them none of them noticed except for one who said, your food seems less greasy at the time. So I made that change, and I showed that you can make that change, but really making a big difference in the way food tastes. Health journey, it was that education I received at Wellness Form Health that got me started losing the weight again and taking off all of that excess weight. But it was only part of my journey, because knowing the diet to eat is one thing, but having the mindset of what it all means is another. In other words, I was a starvation dieter all of my life. And for me, the struggle was learning how to eat. And I even though I lost plant-based, I struggled with getting enough to eat and not using that starvation mentality. So eventually it came back on, a lot of it. Now, I've been lucky that not all of the weight has come back on. But in the past few years, I've done the work with coaches and professionals like Nan, who have gotten me to see a different mindset about my relationship with food. And it's been nice because I've been able to relax more around my meals and to relax more about my food choices and to embrace a whole food plant-based diet in a different way. And that is looking at food as nourishment, and then looking at the abundance of food as important for maintaining health. And eventually and slowly, it's been a slower process, but I'm 63 years old now, so it's a whole different conversation. Slowly watching that weight starting to come off again, because I am not doing some of the sabotage behaviors of binging and starving, which is never, ever going to work. So the past, I was at Wellness Form Health for 12 years. And in that time there, I learned and started teaching others how to cook this way. And that's where the ebook that you see, it started there. And we put it together because people were always like, I want salad, but I can't give up salad dressing. I need a mayonnaise, da, da, da. And so I created all of those recipes to show, well, you can make good tasting mayonnaise, and it works just as well as the real thing. You can make salad dressings, and we're going to make a couple of them here in a little bit. Salad dressings that taste good, right, but that don't have that oil and don't have the unwanted ingredients that we talk about so much. So that's where that salad dressing came from. Before I show you the salad dressings that we're going to make, I'll tell you a little bit about how I write the Fork, Serve, Knives cookbook. In 2009 or 2010, Brian Wendell, I think it was 2009, Brian Wendell, who is the founder of Fork, Serve, Knives, came to Columbus to interview a business partner for a movie that he was creating. He had seen her speak in California with Dr. Campbell and wanted to include her. And I got to feed Brian and his staff for 3 days while they were in Columbus, and they liked the food. And that's how I was then asked to create a meal for the last scene of the movie. If you go back and watch the movie where all of the main participants are sitting around a table, I got to prepare that meal and was there when they filmed that. And that led to the book. When Brian asked me to write the cookbook, I jumped on that and said, yes, I had at that time 20-some years of cooking experience and was able to throw it all in there, adapted to this new lifestyle. So it was quite exciting for me. The book was on the New York Times list, as you may or may not know, for 37 weeks and led to further cookbooks. I told my story about Better Than Vegan, was the story of how I gained and lost that weight on a vegan diet. A whole food plant-based diet is just that, better than a vegan diet from a health perspective. A vegan diet is a good starting point. Getting the animal foods out of your diet is a good starting point, but actually getting rid of the processed foods as well takes you even further towards good health. So that's where Better Than a Vegan came from, where the title came from. In my last book, the Chinese Study Family Cookbook, I got to tell the story of how other families have adopted and dealt with making the changes in their families' lives. If you haven't read through that cookbook, if you haven't seen it, it's worth telling, because Leanne Campbell, Dr. Campbell's daughter, and Dr. Pam Popper, and then several of my local people here who are whole food plant-based talk about how they struggled or were successful in getting their families to adopt a whole food plant-based diet. For example, Leanne Campbell's children, she has 2 sons, they were born whole food plant-based. They've been eating it since they were kids. They've not known any other way to eat. And in spite of the challenge public schools can rain on, they survived and thrived and are very, very healthy young men to this day, right? But I tell the story also of divided families and how some have struggled in their household with family members that don't want to eat this way, and how they've managed to adopt and adapt their cooking and their lifestyles to that divided family. So it's quite a long story, but I could go on telling my story. I think it continues. I think being 63 years old now and realizing that as you get older, your body starts to slow down some. I wish I had maintained some of those changes when I was younger. When I retired from the Wellness Forum, I went home and sat down, and that was probably not the healthiest thing to do. But lesson learned, right? I mean, we're still all on day one and learning as we go. So I want to show you these recipes. I'm making 2 recipes from the ebook. And here's what I want to say about the first one. I'm doing this sweet and spicy mustard dressing. When I was at King Avenue Coffee House, my first restaurant job, we made a dressing called honey mustard dressing. This dressing was 3 parts mayonnaise, 2 parts mustard, and 1 part honey. That was it. So it was a high-fat recipe and one that really wasn't giving anybody anything really healthy to offer. So I recreated it and made the sweet and spicy mustard dressing using tofu. Silken tofu is much lower in fat. It's got good protein in it and goes a long way towards, I tell you what, silken tofu is kind of my go-to. The mayonnaise and any creamy dressings I want, I do with silken tofu. But not everybody eats tofu, so this recipe, which you'll get in the ebook, I've made it with beans. I've made it for some of my clients with a creamy white bean, like a cannellini bean, does really, really well. And I've also made it with cooked, steamed, pureed cauliflower, because it also works really well to give you that creamy texture. So if you're not a tofu lover, you can still make this dressing, replacing the 12-ounce block of tofu with a 1.5 cups of pureed beans, white beans, or pureed silken and tofu. And then mustard, of course, prepared mustard. And this all goes right into either a high-powered blender or a food processor like I'm using here. Maple syrup, if you don't want to add that kind of a processed sweetener, you can certainly do date paste, and I've made it that way as well. Not quite as sweet as it would be with the maple syrup, but that's okay. If you're down-regulated your taste buds, if you've stopped eating sugar, you're used to the sweetness that fruits have in them. And some crushed red peppers, the original honey mustard dressing that we used to make, but I like that little kick in there. And then a pinch of sea salt if you use sea salt. If not, you can leave that out as well. And that's it. That's it. That's this is the thing. If you're struggling with getting healthy salads on the table because you can't find healthy salad dressings, this takes 5 minutes to make. I'm chit-chatting, so it's going to take 5 minutes to make. It'll keep for 7 days refrigerated. And then with 20 different recipes in the cookbook, you've got variety. You've got plenty of choices should you want something different besides this one. So let me puree this, and I'll show you how creamy this is, and I'll be right back. Did I forget to? Oh, I forgot to plug it in. Nobody move. There we go. And here.
While he's mixing that, I'm going to address something. Can you hear me? Del, can you hear me? I'm not sure he can hear me, and therefore I'm not sure you can hear me. Del, can you hear me? Del,
I did not hear you.
can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I want to address something because a number of his dressings have tofu, the silken tofu, and he just explained that you can use white beans, you can use the steamed cauliflower, but there's something that people don't know unless you're up on the information, and I mean up on it as opposed to the older information. There was a time when people feared tofu, fearing that because of the phytoestrogens that would be dangerous for men to have, that would be bad for women because the estrogen might cause problems with breast cancer as well as uterine cancer. Well, let me give you an example. There is a doctor. She's an oncologist. As a matter of fact, she's called the breast surgeon of the stars, and that's Dr. Christy Funk. Wrote a book, Breasts, the Owner's Manual, 18 years ago. She apologizes for her advice in that book as it relates to tofu. She will actually say to you now, I wrote that book. I said, stay away from tofu. I was wrong. When she did a deep dive into why she was seeing so many people with breast cancer, so many have it recur, she started studying nutrition. The more she studied, the more the writing was on the wall that whole food, plant-based, dairy-free was the way to go. Then she started looking at tofu because that is whole food, plant-based, and found that not only was it not dangerous, it was actually, I want to say restorative, but I'm not thinking. What?
Protective.
Protective. It was protective because it's a phytonutrient or a phytoestrogen, which docks on the estrogen receptors and actually blocks the more dangerous physiological estrogen that we produce. So it is protective. They have found that it's protective in prostate cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer. So she now, and then I'll stop talking, she now recommends to her clients that they have 1 to 3 servings of tofu a day. Da-da, mic drop. All right, I'm done.
Very good. So eat your tofu, guys. And if you think that you don't like tofu, you just haven't had the right recipe. Here's the thing. You can make tofu taste like anything. It's a neutral flavor in much the same way that milk or cream or cream cheese can be. It's a neutral thing. So there's really no excuse to avoid it. Now you can see how creamy that is in the camera there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And like I said, this will keep 7-10 days refrigerated. You can eat this on salads. You can use this as a dip for vegetables. I used to make a marinated baked tofu sandwich with black bean hummus and sweet and spicy mustard dressing and salad greens. And that was one of the most popular ways that I served this salad dressing. People used to come in and buy it by the pint. So there's that beauty of a dish. Very popular it was back in the day, and I think they still offer it at my former place of employment should you want it. But you have the recipe, so you no longer have to look for someone to make it for you. You can make it yourself.
Well, I'm going to make that as soon as we're finished. I need salad dressing for tomorrow. I finished up ours today. That looks simply delicious. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Other uses for it makes a great, this might surprise you, potato salad.
Really?
I grew up with my grandmother My father's great-great-grandfather was German, and so we grew up with some of the German eating. But there's a warm, kind of a sweet, tangy that my grandmother made that reminds me of this. So this goes well for that. My dad even liked that. So that's all the proof I need from a 97-year-old guy, right?
Nice, nice. Okay, so what's next?
All right, so I'm going to make the Italian dressing for the book, and here's why. This is one of the newer dressings that I added in the past couple of years going into my new cookbook. And I'll tell you why, because fat-free dressings, if you want a fat-free dressing, the commercial ones are just full of chemicals and such, and who wants that and who needs that? But, I've used applesauce for years in baking to get rid of oil as an egg replacer and the like. Well, it turns out it works just as well as an oil replacer, as a fat replacer in your salad dressing. But what makes it really work, and this is doing it in a blender. So if you make this in the blender, what happens is the pureeing releases the pectins in the applesauce, which give it that texture. So we're going to use that. We've got red wine vinegar and some lemon juice. And then we've got dry mustard. We're not talking about ingredients that let's maybe tofu, but for the most part, these you'll have in your pantry. We've got garlic, an oregano, and then a little bit of sea salt, which is, of course, optional if you don't eat salt. And that's it. And this one is another one. This will keep easily 7-10 days. The vinegar is protective for that. All right. Put that into the blender. This is another dressing. I tell you what about this dressing. You can see it almost has a creaminess to it. This is a salad dressing that's great on your Greek salad, your dressing up any kind of greens. So, but it also, yum. I've served this. I've poured this over. And then baked the tofu, like tofu Italiano, and it's delicious. But you can do that. You can do salads. You can do anywhere you can put a fat-free dressing. If you want to take out the oregano and then add some curry powder and have a curry vinaigrette, you can. You can use your face. You can take out the oregano and what's the seasoning blend? The za'atar seasoning blend. Berber seasoning, any of the different seasoning blends you can use to make this. So there's variety right there. One of the bundle contributions by Chef Mark Reinfeld. If you guys get the bundle, take a look at his presentation on cooking, because he talks about 5 different benchmarks of cooking. Well, one of them is using recipes as templates. That's the starting point for your creativity, and I think it's so important for us to, I love the fact that you want to buy these. The fact that I create them and that you cling to them for life. But they are a starting point for your own creativity, right? So learning that and learning how to work and to experiment a little bit. And be careful, because you start slowly, you change recipes gently, and then you go from there. Learn a lot that way. But this is a good one. And this is one that I keep on house because it's just such an easy one to have.
Chef Del, tell us again what you just told us to look for. Let me mention that when you get the bundle, you're going to get 151, as I said, contributors. You're going to find them alphabetized. Chef Del is alphabetized under chef. So there's a number of chefs, so you're going to see that. So who are we looking for that gives the demonstration?
Chef Mark. Chef Mark Reinfeld. He has operated several restaurants. both in Hawaii and here in the States. He's a work your way through the ranks kind of chef like I am. Been around for a long time, almost as long as I have. I've had his food out in Portland. It's absolutely delicious. He really flavor and presentation. But he talks about, and I wish I could think of the other tenets, but it's about seasoning blends. He's big on those. So Italian, I've always sort of avoided them, but I recently used them in a course that I'm developing and thought, yeah, this actually works. Curry powder, which was not invented by the Indian population, but by British to make it easy for them. Curries and za'atar and berber, and there's all these different spice blends that you can use to make this a more interesting dressing. So, but it's a wonderful, I love the way that he looks at approaches cooking, and I think that people will learn a lot from it, in addition to the 2,000 recipes that are available in the bundle.
Okay, so Chef Mark Reinfeld is offering the name of his bundle is 7 Culinary Keys. So it sounds like he's going to teach us to be better chefs. And that's pretty much what Chef Dell is telling us about class 1 or first class, second class. Oh, this is marvelous. Boy, are we getting spoiled by you all. So thank you, Dell.
If you're very welcome. And if you want to further your culinary journey with me, you'll find me. I currently work for the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies in a project called CNS Kitchen. And what we're doing in CNS Kitchen is we kind of a support mechanism for people who are looking to adopt a whole food plant-based diet. We have a community that's off of the mainstream internet. We have 10,000 members, and they are the most supportive, giving people that you'll meet anywhere. They help each other, they support each other, they cheer each other on. I'm finishing up the second course that I've developed. The first one is called a beginner's cooking course. If you come into this whole food plant-based realm and you don't even know how to boil water, it's one of the lessons in my course. So it's a self-paced course, but I have office hours and I'm available frequently daily by chat and messaging to answer questions. And it's a great course. It's the one that I think, again, that beginner cook and some experienced cooks are taking it. People who are going through our certificate program are taking it and learning from it because it will teach you how to teach others.
That's marvelous.
Yes, thank you. And on my other project, I'm just finishing a course on batch cooking, which will come out later this month. And it looks at batch cooking from 4 different viewpoints. There's traditional batch cooking, and then at the other end of it is cooking for that person who says they hate to cook. My job is to change your mind because you can spend 2 or 3 hours at a time in the kitchen cooking and putting meals in the freezer and all of that. Or you can use some healthy convenience foods and put dinner together in 10, 15 minutes. And so I show you both ranges of that spectrum, how to make it happen by setting up your pantry, setting up your kitchen for cooking success, and hopefully turning some of people into those who like to cook and find it. And let's face it, you cannot go out into the world yet and find whole food, plant-based, oil-free cooking in too many places. I know of one that I've eaten in DC, but it's hard to find. So we're cooking until restaurants get the lesson and get the message that we want to eat differently.
Thank you for that. I actually was certified by the organization that you're with, T. Colin Campbell's plant-based nutrition certification program. And so I'm looking it up to be sure that people can find so you can go to, well, how would you recommend they get to?
You can go to the nutritionstudies.org website and you'll find CNS Kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest one.
So nutritionstudies.org. Okay.
There you go.
.org. Okay. I just wanted to be sure that with your piquing their interest, these classes sound wonderful. So they'll be able to find them easily enough. All right. So now we have Italian dressing. I'm so excited. What's next?
Two dressings that I have for you today. They went quick and easy, but I
Okay.
hope you guys will try these and some of the others in there. Some of my favorites. I use the ginger miso dressing becomes a pasta salad. So rice noodles and shiitake mushrooms and snow peas, and off you go. So these dressings have multiple uses. It's not just to put on your lettuce and such. It's to make the world pop a little bit. But the one that I make the most is the mayonnaise. You know, I love mayonnaise. I like my oil-free French fries dipped in mayonnaise, much like the people in Belgium do. I like mayonnaise on a tofu sandwich, and so I keep that one very handy on hand because one, it's so easy to make, and yeah, I love it.
Who knows what he's talking about when he said the way the Belgians like their French fries. I was in Amsterdam and I went up to a truck and I got a cone and I think it was newspaper. Um, and there were fries in it and this huge dollop of mayonnaise. It was phenomenal. And I felt so guilty eating it, but guess what? Ate it anyway. With our air frying capabilities with air fryers and this recipe, you could do the same thing and pretend like you're in Amsterdam walking along the canals. I love that,
You have
Dale.
your delicious oil-free fries, your potato salad, your mock tuna salad. So there's so many recipes. Your mock egg salad. Can we go on with recipes that you can create with this mayonnaise?
Absolutely. 100%. All right. Well, let me get us back to size and let me check chat. How are we doing? I think this is a quiet afternoon, chat wise. And how are we doing with time? We're okay. Is there anything more that you want to talk about, Del? Let me just bring something up as it relates to his explanation of whole food plant-based and what it can do for us. If you've read, and some of you have, Aging Powerfully, it begins with a memoir and an explanation that I had an eating disorder for almost 50, well, over 50 years, actually, a hidden one, because if you're a binge eater, which I was, and a bulimic, you can hide that. And it's a cheater's way of eating, and it's hell because you know what you're doing, whether other people know it or not, and it's a shameful way to live. But in any case, I recovered with the help of two things, and that's explained in the book. And this is only the first small part of the book. The rest is whole food, plant-based, and the other pillars of lifestyle medicine, all spelled out in this acronym of Powerfully, 10 words. I recovered because I went whole food, plant-based, and didn't fear food anymore. See, I feared food because we were told by Atkins, don't eat carbs. We were told by him, load up on protein and oil. Well, I gained a lot of weight that way, but more importantly, in 2018, everything was wrong with me. High blood pressure, pre-diabetes, too high cholesterol. I was a wreck. And that was, again, going on 6 years ago. And doctors said, every doctor said, it has little to do with food. Take my pill, do my procedure. And I said, because I had just finished my training, nope, I'm going to do it with food. And they all argued with me. The food took care of it, number one. The other thing, eating whole food, plant-based, especially if you pay attention to nutritional density, which I got in my mind, that little chart that Chef AJ has, but is it Novik? What is Novik's first name?
Novik.
What?
Jeff Novik.
Jeff Novik. He also has quite a course on this. Just YouTube, caloric density. The point of it is that vegetables are the lowest you can go per pound, around 100, less than 100, a little more than 100. Fruit comes in next. Well, starchy vegetables and fruits come in at about 200 or 300, and then on up to grains and then legumes. And that's at about 600 calories a pound. You can get the potatoes in there at about 350, maybe 4. In any case, knowing caloric density, and knowing that I could eat as much as I want, because how many pounds can we eat? Most people about 3 to 5 in a day. I knew I could eat and didn't fear the weight. So I could eat to satiety, I could eat to fullness. I didn't feel like, oh, you've eaten. That means you've had too many calories. That means, well, play it out. I didn't have to do that anymore. And then I read a book called Brain Over Binge that taught me that just because we get used to doing a thing and our brain wants equanimity, the lower brain, the subconscious brain, would tell me, Nan, binge, you've already had 3 of something instead of the one you allowed yourself. You might as well binge. And I would do that. And then the purge thing. She said the book taught us to ignore those signals, ignore the signals. They get weaker and weaker and eventually completely go away. So between learning to ignore those signals and whole food plant-based, letting me be full with good food that made me healthier. This was going on 6 years ago. And I'm healthier now at 73 than I was back then. Everything is fixed. And the binging stopped, well, almost 6 years ago, and will never come back because I like the way this feels. Plus, it serves the way whole food plant-based serves us is it serves us neurologically because it keeps our hormones balanced and our gut, our microbiome healthy. So I wanted to give that plug for what we're teaching you today too, in terms of whole food plant-based, because it can be a magic formula. So anything else?
Yeah, count calories and stop counting. Count fibers and stop counting calories. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you something. Fiber is what helps me turn the noise down around my binge eating.
Uh-huh.
Satiety is what keeps me from heading back to the kitchen or calling up the vegan meal delivery service. Because when you're full, that sends that signal to the brain that you better to eat, and on you go.
Yeah. Drink lots of water if you're eating fiber, because it keeps the fiber bulked up and you bulked up in terms of fullness. Excuse me. This is just an herb tea. Anyway, we've had some really good conversations here.
Yeah, man, it's been great. It's been great. I aspire. I'm 10 years ahead or behind you in age. I'm 63. When I'm 73, if I look as good as you, I'm going to be a lucky guy.
Well, I swear I've aged backwards. You're on your way. And then what I decided when I looked at how well, and I said this earlier, I may not have said it the same way, but when I looked at these people who were our lifestyle medical clients, I still see clients, I still run groups for the lifestyle medical practice. And the Dr. Dysinger of my practice was one of the founders of the College of Lifestyle Medicine, their 3rd president. But they inspired me so much to understand that when I wrote the book just before turning 70, thinking I was entering into the dark ages, I realized that that's not true. I have, based on what this can do for me, another 10, 20, or 30 years. And the Blue Zones books tell us that's possible if we follow what amounts to the pillars of lifestyle medicine. So yeah, the possibilities, people, are endless. And there's somebody. Okay, so Sue McCarthy, good to see you. Going to check out Chef Dell. His recipes sound amazing. Yes, they are. Okay, all right. Well, we can wrap this up unless you have something pressing to tell us.
I think this has been wonderful, and hopefully I'll meet some of you guys in CNS Kitchen. If not, I'm on the internet. I'm around, so come say hi.
Yeah, I think you're just amazing, Chef Dell, and I think your talents come straight from the heavens, and your own very, very hard work, because most chefs can't match you. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Somebody said off topic, I got those pickles you mentioned this week. Oh, that was another one of my interviews. What I was encouraging, Chef Dell, and I think you probably agree with this, is if we're going to get brined food, aim for the active probiotic brined foods. So I was talking to them about pickles in a not tuna salad, using chickpeas. And I suggested the bottle I happen to have, Trader Joe's had the best, I thought, because it was so well priced. But another one that I found with live bacteria is Bubby's, the Bubby's pickles, because you find them in the refrigerator section. If they're not refrigerated, they have been
Pasteurized.
yes, pasteurized. There's nothing living in them. All you're getting is vinegar and salt. But if you get a probiotic, still living bacteria, kimchi or pickles or sauerkraut, your gut bugs love them. And they're actually pretty darn good. Okay, anything else? I think we've done it. All right, Chef Dale, hands up. It's been great to spend time with you. And
You as well.
okay, hold on just a sec. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll be back to say goodbye to you. So I wish you well, everyone. Have a great day, because I know I'm going to. And thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.